we are, at the tail end of summer, with plenty of new cases that need to be addressed. I think it's painfully obvious that there have been more missing person cases in the last few months than any other time during my research. Join me as I count down 10 more of the strangest state and national park missing person cases out there. Note that these are only a small number of cases being covered by the media, while many others are brushed aside and are simply fading away. Number 10. Sometime in the late evening of July 15, 2006, a 24-year-old man vanished during his hike up the Romero Canyon trailhead in the Los Padres National Forest in California. Hans Adalbert was last seen by other hikers who say they were heading back while he was just setting out. The elderly couple who last saw him stated that they thought it was odd considering how late in the day it was for someone to be just starting their hike. Because of this, they were able to give a detailed description of the man when they heard about his disappearance several days later. Hans was reported missing by his family on July 19th, which kicked off a brief but extensive search of the area involving several dozen search and rescue teams equipped with search dogs, firefighters, park rangers, and volunteers. They located his vehicle at the trailhead, but no other trace of him was ever found. After 3 days, the search was scaled back, and after a week, it ended altogether. It's been over 10 years since Hans disappeared, and no information has come forward since. The Los Padres National Forest has claimed many hikers over the years, including a 34-year-old firefighter named Mike Herdman, who vanished in the park in 2014 and was eventually found dead weeks later under strange circumstances. Then a 55-year-old Big Sur resident named Arvin Nelson mysteriously vanished during a hike in 2014 and was never found. These cases were given a decent amount of media coverage, while many other cases were given hardly any at all. Number 9. In July of this year, a 25-year-old paramedic named Eric Pratt vanished without a trace outside of his residence near the Bear Creek Lake Park area in Colorado. The last time anybody saw Eric, who worked for the South Park Ambulance District, was just before midnight on July 22, 2016. Eric and his fiancée invited a few friends over for drinks at their Lakewood residence, and after the get-together, both Eric and his fiancée took the trash out and headed back inside. But before doing so, Eric told her that he needed to take a short walk to get some air. She went back inside, but he never did. Authorities say foul play has not been ruled out, but there is no indication any harm has come to Eric either. In fact, there have been no real clues at all. He never had any talk of suicidal thoughts or anything like that. It's almost as if he just walked away, stated Steve Davis from the Public Information Office for the Lakewood Police Department. The days after Eric's disappearance were filled with volunteer searches surrounding his apartment complex and the surrounding parkland. Cadaver dogs were also utilized, but so far nothing has turned up. Quote, "We've exhausted all leads and haven't come up with anything," said Davis. There have been no activity on Eric's cell phone, credit and debit cards, or his social media pages. Police are hoping that anyone out there who may have seen anything will come forward. Family members have told local media outlets that the disappearance is extremely out of character for Eric, who loved his job and has never done anything like this in the past. Because of its proximity to some heavily wooded areas, I decided to include this case in this segment. Number 8. In May of this year, a well-respected 59-year-old Arizona State University English instructor named Debra Schwartz vanished somewhere inside a northern Arizona canyon. She was several days into her solo camping trip when she disappeared. Immediately afterward, a large search effort was coordinated involving dozens of search and rescue members from surrounding counties and the Arizona Department of Public Safety, along with helicopters, search dogs, and teams on horseback. About a week after her disappearance, a 3-member technical rescue team was searching a slot canyon below the rim of Oak Creek Canyon when they discovered her body. Quote, this technical rescue team completed 2 rope rappels to make their way into the canyon to a spot where they were able to see the body, and then a 3rd rappel to actually reach the body, according to Jerry Blair with the Coconino County Sheriff's Office. Schwartz's body was found about a half a mile from her Palm Flats campsite, where she had been staying for several days. According to those who knew her, she was in an excellent physical shape and was looking forward to spending some time in the outdoors after a semester of teaching. Her cause of death is still pending an investigation according to the Coconino County Medical Examiner's Office. Her death came as a shock to many, as she was well known for giving back to the community. Number 7. In February of 2015, a 28-year-old hiker named Chris Sylvia vanished during a 4-day solo hike along the Pacific Crest Trail between Anza and Campo, just north of Warner Springs in California. The 28-year-old has not been heard from since February 16, when he telephoned a friend and said he wanted to be picked up. The friend was supposed to meet Sylvia on February 17th at a meditation center, but he never showed. Several days after his disappearance, a hiker found a pair of hiking sandals and an empty package of freeze-dried stew near Tool Spring. Mary Litch, the hiker who made the discovery, stated that one of the shoes had an empty package of beef stew that had been folded up and tucked inside. Litch took a cell phone photograph of the items and emailed it to the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. Quote, I left the shoes where they were. I unfolded the package of food just so I could see what it was, and I put that down next to the pair of shoes and took a photo, Litch said. The location of the sandals was about 6 miles north of the sheriff's search area in Chihuahua Valley. Search teams eventually found Sylvia's camping gear abandoned near the rendezvous point of Chihuahua Valley Road. Nancy Sylvia, the boy's mother, said her son was a fairly experienced hiker, and she does not believe Chris was suicidal. Authorities added that many people hike there by their lonesome, and it is considered by many to be a very safe place to hike. Number 6. 10 years ago, in September of 2006, a then 47-year-old inventor disappeared inside the vast wilderness of Denali National Park in Alaska. Richard Lyman Griffis of Spokane, Washington, invented what he called a survival cocoon and decided to test his idea there. Sergeant Ben Sewell of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police stated that, in all likelihood, he went missing in September 2006 but was not reported until August 2007. He never told anyone where he was going exactly, but officials have reason to believe he set out in an area containing 13.2 million acres of sheer wilderness. Quote, we were able to go back to that year and track him, Sewell said. Mounties found where Griffis paid for a bus ticket north. They tracked him to where he had been dropped off by the bus along Alaska Highway. He left some of his gear at a lodge near the White River. He told people there he was going upriver to McCarthy, an outpost town in the Elias Park in Alaska, to test his orange cocoon. Then he marched off into nothingness. Before taking off, he told friends in the southern U.S. that he, quote, might winter over in Alaska, Sewell said. They didn't worry about him for months. When a woman in Florida finally called Mounties wondering if anyone had seen the then 47-year-old man, she had no idea of where to look for Griffis. Searches in this area are always difficult because of the huge glaciers, the jagged mountains, the sheer remoteness, harsh weather, and the limited search and rescue resources. But the search for Griffis was especially difficult. Quote, "Nothing new has ever surfaced," said Sewell, who still wonders if some part of that orange survival cocoon might pop up somewhere, someday, even though he knows the odds are against that. Number 5. In June of 2008, a 27-year-old camper named Adalbert Muller vanished while camping at the Hobo Gulch campground in the Shasta Trinity National Forest. His 1991 CJ7 Jeep was still parked next to the entrance when officials conducted a routine check. His tent was found undisturbed with many of his personal items still inside, including clothes, camping supplies, a flip phone, and an ice chest filled with expired food. Registration records showed that he checked in on June 2nd and planned on leaving the park the following weekend. He was officially reported missing on June 11th, nearly 2 weeks after checking in. It was estimated that Mr. Muller vanished sometime within the first few days of his camping trip, based on what other campers observed. Authorities believed he may have gone for a short hike, but are unsure where exactly, considering the limited number of trails in the general area. After several days of an intense search by park rangers and dozens of volunteers, the search was eventually called off. To this day, no trace of Muller was ever found. Number 4. In September of 2015, a 39-year-old Kentucky man named Glenn Austin Oldfield disappeared inside the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Washington State. On September 17th, he texted his girlfriend to let her know that he was planning on spending 2 weeks camping in southwest Washington, according to a sheriff's news release. 2 days after he was reported missing, 2 hunters talked with him near Lone Butte, approximately 31 miles north of Carson. Oldfield told the hunters that he was lost, but when they attempted to show him the way to the road, he turned and ran the opposite direction. The hunters were taken back by this odd behavior and also noticed that he wasn't wearing any shoes. He seemed completely normal until they reached the road, where he immediately turned around and sprinted back into the wilderness. About 50 people gathered to form a search party where they spent the next several days searching for him. They eventually found his car in the campsite, but he was nowhere to be seen. Even though Austin had planned to contact his home on October 1st, 2015, September 17th was the last time anybody heard from him. And to this day, he remains missing. Number 3. In October of 2010, a 31-year-old hiker named James Nelson went missing during a 5-day, 25-mile backpacking trip in the Holy Cross Wilderness near Vail, Colorado. His fiancée reported him missing on October 8th after he failed to show up at their agreed meeting spot. Within the next several days, 116 people, including police, family, friends, and volunteers, searched for more than 1,000 hours for Nelson. The search for the missing Ravenwoods man became extremely difficult due to extremely rough terrain, bad weather, and limited resources. The Eagle County Sheriff's Department suspended the search efforts after nearly a week. Then in May of 2012, almost 2 years after James disappeared, a hiker stumbled upon an abandoned campsite in the forest about 50 feet off of the Holy Cross Jeep Road near an abandoned mining camp. He took pictures of it and reported it to the authorities. When they arrived to examine the site, they found scattered items, including some camping and hiking gear, credit cards with James's name on them, and a journal which indicated that he may have been suffering from altitude sickness. Several yards from the campsite, human remains were eventually discovered, and then identified as James. Police added that some of Nelson's gear, including a camera, GPS unit, and camp stove, were missing from the site. They also stated that the campsite was found a bit off course from Nelson's planned route. Quote, Nelson had planned to start his hike at Half Moon Campground, follow Fall Creek Trail past Lake Constantine, and go over the Fall Creek Pass and pass Holy Cross City. Nelson then planned to hike Fancy Pass Trail over Fancy Pass and continue downstream along Cross Creek Trail. Nelson had intended to hike up East Cross Creek and then follow Half Moon Pass Trail back to the parking lot. Number 2. On July 4th, 2012, a 66-year-old runner named Michael Lemaitre vanished during a 3-mile trail race up Mount Marathon in Seward, Alaska. The annual event is held every 4th of July and involves hundreds of men and women from all over the U.S. In the entire history of the race, which began in 1915, no one has ever failed to return. The first few minutes of the race was the most difficult, and witnesses say Michael Lemaitre had no problem making it beyond this point. But that's where things get a little strange. Witnesses also state that he was within eyeshot of several others, and nobody noticed anything suspicious. He just disappeared. A large search and rescue effort was coordinated by the Alaska State Troopers, search dogs, local volunteers, and even the friends and family of Lemaitre, all of whom continued to search through the rest of the summer. But despite the vast number of searchers and resources utilized in the search, no trace of Michael was ever found. Number 1. In late August of this year, a 50-year-old hiker named Gordon Sagoo went missing in the Cheam Mountain Range in Chilliwack, British Columbia. Gordon, an avid trail runner from North Delta, went missing while hiking with 2 other people near the Baby Monday Peak. Sherelle Budai was hiking the trail with Sagoo and another hiker at the time he went missing. She stated that Sagoo separated from the group to explore some other peaks and planned on meeting them just before returning to the trailhead. She also stated that, quote, we thought Gordon was right ahead of us on the trail. We could see him right in front of us in the distance. But when we got to the trailhead, he wasn't there, so the other hiker went back looking for him. Budai said that her partner could not find any trace of Sagoo, and so they both drove back to Chilliwack. The pair immediately called for search and rescue as soon as they had cellular reception. Search crews from Chilliwack, Lions Bay, and Surrey searched the area around the peak all day that day, but no sign of him was ever found. Search personnel with experience hiking in extreme terrain was also called in to assist. Gordon was carrying at least 3 liters of water with him at the time he disappeared, and was very familiar with the region they were hiking. He was seen as a leader, an expert in the outdoors, and was always well prepared. Hundreds gathered in the search for Gordon, but he is yet to be found. Though this case may be a couple weeks old, there are many people still actively searching for Gordon, including friends and family. I'll keep you updated on this case as we continue to learn more about it. And there you have it, folks. 10 more of the strangest state and national park missing person cases out there. As we say goodbye to the summer season, we should never forget all of those poor folks who never made it back home. They're still out there, and perhaps we'll find out what happened to them in due time. If you've lost a loved one or know of a case that you'd like to share with our listeners, please shoot me a message on my YouTube channel, and I'll do my best to respond in due time. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, folks, and subscribe for more videos.